Finally, all information. Steps. What are your home screens? You only have. I do. It's not like the. Oh, there we go. This clock calls me. Please stand for pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Mueller.
Here.
Council members Udvig. Here. Bauer.
Here.
Cresswell. Here. Robinson.
Here. All right, we will entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Do we have a
Make a motion, Mayor.
motion by Councilmember Robinson? Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Creflo. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. If we have any discussion, do we have any discussion on consent?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
You do?
Where does this fall on the consent agenda?
No, that is a new business. It'll be
Further down, okay.
nothing on the consent.
No,
All right, then we will entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Bauer. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Udvig. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Meeting open to the public. Being absolutely nobody in the audience. I was in there until later. We'll move on to old business. Item A, Minnetonka Game and Fish Club ordinance amendments, second reading.
Mayor and Council, before you tonight is the second reading of an ordinance that you reviewed at your October 2nd, the last meeting that we had in October. This ordinance amendment is to allow for the specified use of gun clubs to allow them to have additional accessory structures with the approval of a coinciding conditional use permit or conditional use permit amendment. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, Sarah? Rob?
I have no questions.
I have a question.
And Kevin?
I have an additional question, Mayor.
We talked about this last time. I think it went into detail. I have no questions as well. So with that, I guess we'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 323, modifying section 106502 gun clubs in the zoning code, second reading. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Bauer. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Robinson, and it is a roll call.
Councilmembers Robinson.
Aye.
Bauer.
Aye.
Cresswell. Udvig. Aye. Mayor Mueller.
Aye. Motion carries. And we will entertain a motion, resolution 2023-1, authorizing the summary publication for ordinance 323. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Udvig. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Creflo. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. And new business. Item A, nuisance abatement, 23462 University Ave.
Mayor and Council, I actually will let Dave start off with the presentation of this, and I'm happy to answer any questions that Dave wouldn't answer. We've been working on this property together.
Sounds good.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, before you tonight is discussion on nuisance abatement process and a potential order for 462 University Avenue. Staff has been trying to bring the property into compliance for quite a while over the summer right now, and has, to my understanding, issued 4 rounds of administrative citations. The different citations and code violations are listed on the first page of the memo that I provided. It was also included in administrative citations or documentation that was included in your packet. To date, the property owner has not responded and has not made any effort to correct the code violations. This is the point where our office has a discussion with the council on whether or not we have authorization to proceed on a different track from the administrative citation process to an actual nuisance abatement process in an order. And so we've kind of gone down the one process. We're not getting any response. The fees that the property owner starts to rack up start to become cumulative. In the past and in past years, council, I think, has been working with staff that we try to address it a little bit further ahead in the process with the actual nuisance abatement. And so our office then checks in with the city council. One of the things that we note on that is that this is not a typical retainer type item. It's its own separate nuisance abatement. However, the city is able to abate the nuisance and then assess up to 25% in administrative fees to the property owner, which if they do not pay, gets put on the property taxes. However, the city is required to front the cost for abating the nuisance and then would be required to potentially recoup that in another year on the property taxes or when the property is sold. So again, one of the points of contact where we want to check in with the council prior to incurring those costs going down that path. In the staff report, you've seen the pictures that are included. This particular property looks to have quite a number of junk vehicles. I don't think staff knows exactly how many there are. Part of that would be that we don't have full access to the property. We put down some initial thoughts on what the cost may be to abate the concerns on the property, but quite frankly, that may be low. As a next step, if authorized by the council, would be for the city to send a formal notice of the nuisance violation to the property owner. And then at the next city council meeting, the council would take up that order. We would provide it to the property owner. They'd have an opportunity to be heard. Throughout that process, if council felt that they'd like to proceed at that point, we would be issuing an order. We would also be going to Anoka County to obtain an administrative warrant to be on the property. We're doing that just because, one, we want to be respectful of property rights. But two, my understanding is that this person has put up gates to his property. And so we got to go through gates. We certainly want to make sure that we are going through the proper channels on that. As part of this, the property owner does have and continues to have appeal rights. So notice opportunity to be heard. He'd be able to appeal to a hearing officer. That decision would actually be appealed back to you. And then if you wanted to take it further, you could appeal it to district court. So again, making sure that property rights are being respected on that. But what the city staff is looking for is trying to achieve compliance with the city code. And then just in terms of what the other options are at this point in time, the city could continue with the administrative citation process. However, to date, that has not been effective, and so we don't know if that would work. My understanding is that the administrative citation fees that the property owner has incurred so far are going to be coming before the city council, I believe in November, as part of the unpaid charges for the end of the year. So again, another process where notice opportunity to be heard on that. The other option would be to potentially refer this to the city prosecutor's office for a criminal citation under the city code. That process, again, is criminal, it's punitive, it's a longer process, there's due process rights, and that is specific to punishing a behavior that is not remedying anything on the property. That doesn't get us to where we want to go, where the person cleans up their property, brings it into compliance with the city code. So the one thing I would also add, that if we went through all of this process, got the administrative order, got the nuisance abatement order, we're on the property, anything of value would be taken and stored for 30 days. The property owner could pay for those fees as well prior to the disposition. So it's not just taking everything and throwing it. staff would be engaging in, the actual junk would go. But if there's anything of value, that would be taken, either to a storage yard. And then there would be associated storage fees, again, that would be recouped against the property. So we're at the point in time where, again, we're checking in with the council here. We want to hear your thoughts on it. Just in terms of the size of the property, I don't know if staff has seen something to, we're looking at something that's pretty big. At the office, we have done these types of actions before, but we don't think that we've done one to this degree in size. And with that, I think we would stand for any questions that the council would have, and would welcome the thoughts of the city council on potentially moving forward.
Well, I think something Mayor Feldman used to always say is, this is always the worst part of our job, not the fun part. Comes to abatement stuff, charging people for things, on their own property or not complying with code. I guess I would open it up for questions to start with, and we'll start with Kevin, see if you have any questions.
Yeah, my first question is, my computer won't open up here, but I read the packet earlier. The gentleman's name is Travis, he has a Ramsey address, and then this property, does he own this property, or? Looks like some correspondence with a Ramsey address.
He does have a Ramsey address. He is the owner of this property. We did an O&E on that.
Is this a rental tenant situation is taken over, or?
That is our understanding, is that it is a rental property. So one of the things that they are cited for within the citation is also renting without a rental license, because it isn't licensed within our rental program in the city.
And as Travis says, he must be received a notice, and then the tenant also received notice at the same time, or?
Correct. Yep, so the tenant is receiving, we're sending 2 notices and citations when we send them to the property itself and to the property owner in Ramsey. Starting with the 3rd citation, so the 3rd and the 4th citation, they were sent to the property owner via certified mail. So that means that basically when the postal worker goes to that home to deliver that piece of mail, they knock on the door and they request a signature. And he has signed for receipt of both the 3rd and the 4th citation.
The Ramsey resident or the tenant?
The owner in Ramsey.
Okay.
The owner also has a sign on the property, like a cardboard sign that has a phone number on it. Our understanding is that's for if someone's dropping something off or that sort of thing. And staff have called that number at least 3 times and have not received any correspondence in return.
Has anybody visually seen the Ramsey residence? Does it look as disarray as the property we're questioning?
We have not visited the residence of Ramsey.
Okay. Well, we've offered leniency to others in the past to take care of business. I drove by this place on Sunday and there was a fire going of some sort. I don't know what was being burned, but this is a picture of loans, say 1,000 words. I mean, upside down cars, sideways cars. It's really disappointing, and total disregard for their neighbors as well as their property values and whatnot. And this Travis person, I mean, goodness, how can you let something like that just go? I guess when I was involved in another city in a similar situation like this when I was a Met council member, and the same thing, it got to be $45,000 is what we incurred as far as the abatement process and hauling cars out. And within 18 months, it started all over again. They started sneaking in cars at night, sacking them up in the back, lined them up, and so the money was all for naught. And the cars are, I think to this day, I know the address and where it is, but there's still cars in there and it started all over. And a lot of animosity and a lot of unnecessary angst from both parties. You know, just take care of business, man. I mean, have regard for your neighbors and whatnot, but yeah, it's too bad. I guess I after Dave's explanation, I would go for the least expensive and most impactful, whether it's a prosecutor right away, or somebody getting the threat of going to jail. That might wake somebody's butt up as far as cleaning something up. Or, I mean, if you choose the prosecutor route, is that one avenue as opposed to keep sending them stuff that they don't care about anyway?
It's another avenue to consider. The difference with it is that it may be much more drawn out. Might be a much longer process.
Well, right now they're ignoring us, so the process is still drawing, in my opinion. And the process is drawing out. Has there been any police action sheet down in this place? illicit activity, drugs, stolen articles, et cetera, et cetera.
Combination of all the above.
Really? And we,
Between us and the sheriff.
with the combination of that plus the junk and whatnot, there should be some, we should be able to have some teeth in this as far as the prosecution route. Would the prosecution route be, I know it might be longer, but would it be less expensive to the city? Rather than just keep, I mean, they got what, $5,000 in fines already and they don't care.
Like you said, too, it doesn't solve the property issue, then you're basically charging the person, they're facing the criminal charges. But yeah, they still decide not to go to the property, and the property still needs to be abated too. So you're kind of doing two things.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could chime in here, my understanding is there's 3 options before you. Continue the citation route that we're doing now, that, like you said, isn't really working.
No, you're back.
Receiving any responses. Abating the property, so like going forward with an order, accessing the property, removing, the code violations. That is the most immediately effective, right?
Sure.
Comes at a high cost. Or, the prosecution, which is lengthy and we may not see any sort of change to the property in the near future.
And when you say lengthy, what are we talking length of property? Who knows?
Would not be able to, I mean, court process is court process, kind of out of our hands.
I guess before I render a choice, I'd like to hear what others might have to say in my first more conversation, but it's just a darn shame. I mean, we've seen this in lesser situations before, as far as vehicles, whatnot, people went ahead and built pole barns and had their stuff, and I'm all for property rights, believe you me, but I mean, when it starts infringing on the values and of other people's property, adjacent neighbors, and plus health and welfare and safety, it looked like a crap hole. It really was a shame. If they're, yeah, I guess I'd like to hear other conversation from the council. Thank you. Crystal?
I have a question. You had mentioned the size and scope of this. Are you talking just pure acreage of abandoned cars and that kind of thing, or just the massive amount of vehicles and junk that's on the property?
My understanding is the amount of vehicles.
Okay. And then you had answered the question about the certified mail. And so we haven't heard anything from the actual folks that live there. They haven't signed for anything. They're just silent. So violation number 5, business use of property. Can you speak more to what that is?
So, in order to have a home occupation on your property, then, so maybe I'll back up one step further. So this property is zoned rural residential. And so they are allowed fully by right to have a home occupation. So that you're running a business out of your house. Your business use is fully incidental to your home use. So that's often something like a cottage food person or someone who sews clothing or those sorts of things. We also have for residential properties an allowance for a home extended business. So that would be an interim use permit that comes before city council, and that's any time a business is run out of an accessory structure, like a garage. We looked at a car detailing business earlier this year. For that sort of thing, where it's like not necessarily directly incidental to your residential use of your property, but in general, the use of your property still remains mostly residential. For this property, they really wouldn't be confined with either the home occupation standards or with the home extended use or home extended business standards, because while there is residential activity on the property, it doesn't seem like the primary use of the property is residential for it. So, and it's not being run out of an accessory structure that an interim use permit necessarily directly falls into. There's a little bit of an accessory structure in the back that they seem to be using as like a machine shop area or that kind of thing, but that's really hard to know without talking with people about the property use.
Okay, so And it might have been one of the paperwork that I missed it, but what specific business are they running out of there? Just the scrapyard or?
That is our understanding.
Yeah.
It's hard
Are
to
there-
know directly.
They haven't
without-
claimed that.
But
They have
that's
not
my
claimed
question.
that, correct.
Yes, so we don't have verification that they're actually running a business out of there. We're just assuming that with all of the scrapyard, scrap metal and things, that that's what they're doing.
That's correct.
Good, and you had answered the questions about the police activity out there. That's all the questions I have.
Rob?
I guess. We seen a property a couple of years ago, with kind of the same outline. And the owner came and said, hey, I had no idea what was going on this piece of property, so that's kind of where I'm at now. Yeah, if the owner in Ramsey signed for a piece of paper. It's from St. Francis, I rent, that's gotta be the other owners, rip it up, throw it away. I like the fact that we have an officer that can bring a certified letter to a face, to an ID, and say, you are the property owner of this piece of property. These are the standards, and this is the process we're about to start. And no, I handed that to that owner, because everyone knows legal process. You go, all right, let's take them to court. They go into court and they say, I never received a letter, myself. And we have to wait.
That's what certified with receipt, where that comes in, that's the proof right there. That's where the certified, because it's because it's federal or what,
I don't know.
what makes the post office special things. I've sent them many things, certified and we got return receipts as, in case I needed them, but that's similar to what you're saying, that basically solves that issue, because it's a federal post office delivering it. Certified, we get a
Do we have-
return,
do we
we get a
have-
return receipt, that's.
We have a copy of his signature to say, yep, that's his, oh, somebody forged it, somebody went in my mailbox and signed or was standing outside my
They
house.
would have, he's making plans for it to prove it.
Well,
Copy of at least what we understand to believe to be his signature that's consistent from time to time or when the mail has been delivered. Mhm.
I don't know, that's where I'm at, there needs to be a face to face before we're spending a ton of money to try and bait this place. I just feel like we don't actually know, we've talked to the owner. And they may be hands-on, I rent this piece of, oh, I didn't know I was in violation of this rental contract. Let me go ahead and get that, you know, and say, hey, I rent to these people and that's all their job, so yes, let's start with them. The process just seems a little bit broken right now for us to go spending, you know, a lot of money to abate or to prosecute that we haven't even put a face to a signature and told them what the next steps are. That's what I like to do first. Is have our compliance officer, and I don't know, legally, can we go into Ramsey and, you know, do a face-to-face with the homeowner at that address? Are you Joe Bag of Donuts? I'm a police officer, I need to see your ID. Here, this is a letter stating you're going to get prosecuted, or the city will sue you, whatever that letter looks like. Now I know we can get it to them face to face.
We could put some into your courier service.
That's where I would be first before, and just continue with the fine process for now until we actually get a compliance. For me, that's just me, I just hate throwing money at this. And we don't even know if we're gonna get any resolution at it at this point.
There,
I had a question about that. So we've seen the RV, we know that they are using that as.
So that's another item within the citation that, I would say we haven't explicitly verified, similar to, is it an operating business kind of thing? In one of the, it was actually two of the police reports that have happened in the last year. The police have seen people coming and going from that RV as if they were living in it. And operating in that way. But at least in the reports that I read, there wasn't an explicit conversation that said like, are you living in this RV? Yes.
And then you had mentioned that there was a sign or something that you could call. When you call that number, does it identify a business? Does it identify a person? Or does it just say, leave a message? What is that looking?
Yeah, the voice box is a personal number line. I don't remember if it's a recorded message or something. It does say like you reach the voicemail box of Trenton.
Okay, so, and have you left messages on and just nothing?
Yep, we've left 3 messages for the posted.
All right, couple quick questions, I guess. Did our code compliance officer find this or was it a complaint from the neighbor?
So, my understanding is that it came forward to the community development team from the police department. In our conversations with the neighboring property, they have provided access to their property for some of the photos to be able to be taken at the back. They have issued a verbal complaint at that point in time expressing support for the city taking some action, but they were not the initial phone call or what brought this to our attention.
And just out of curiosity, Kate, you may be more familiar, this is the same. The owner, not the same person that had a dispute with the fence and line, is that something that, you know, I'm talking about? I thought there was a Travis that had, is that the same person that owns this property or is that?
No, Mayor and Council, this is a new property.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, thinking maybe there was some animosity there, just trying to understand, get some background.
This one's,
So I'm all for property rights, I love property rights, I'm more liberty driven when it comes to ordinances and whatnot. However, I think in this case, it's a little different. I think none of us like to assess anybody when it comes to a member. We've seen some pretty insane amounts come in front of us in the past, and we forgave some of those. I think the reason that we want to abate it sooner than later, I think is because we don't want it to get that high. And that's something that we addressed previously with the previous mayor here. Seeing some of those, I don't know what the highest one was, like, there's $10,000-$12,000, things like that, and nobody wants to see that on their taxes, or nobody wants to see that from the city at all. So I think addressing that sooner than later is better. And I don't like assessing anybody for anything really at all. The problem with that is we have to be able to cover the cost so that the rest of our residents, so that you're not paying for somebody else, you know, ignoring the city code and whatever, just disregarding their neighbors or whatever. I think there is some sort of an argument when it comes to like vehicles and whatnot, they can leak different kind of chemicals into the soil, possibly into aquifers, things like that, and that's where you can argue public nuisance, definitely, that it can affect people. So that's one thing I see. I do have an issue with saying that the business sense, because if we're assuming that, we're assuming that. If they haven't claimed that as a defense, then I don't think we can really address that with them, because they haven't even claimed it themselves. And then the ignoring the letter part that he just rips it up, that to me is unacceptable, because you got it certified mail, somebody signed for it at your residence, that's our contract, so to speak, that you receive notice. When you say you want them to see something saying, hey, this is what's gonna happen if you don't comply, that's what that certified letter did over time and time again. And I don't know how many certified letters they've received, if it's for all 3 of them or 4 of them, is it?
It's been, so we always send a certified letter with the 3rd citation on anything.
Okay.
So, with the 3rd and the 4th citation.
So to me, I think, I mean, this person's been given multiple opportunity to respond, and owners ignored it. The tenant, unfortunately, is maybe not responsible for the property, because one, they're not even supposed to be there, there's no rental license. I'm assuming the city's addressed all the issues with the rental situation on their property, and notified them, and if it hasn't been certified now, they really don't have an excuse at this point. I would like to see something done. You know, where it's, I don't know if abatement's the right way to go to begin with. You know, threatening to throw it, I mean, I'd like to find out what's really going on. Is it a tenant issue? Is it the owner just doesn't care? Is it both? I mean, the owner's gonna end up gonna pay for it eventually. It's gonna be on the taxes, so they're gonna get hit with the higher escrow or whatever. I don't know what their mortgage situation is or whatever, so who knows, but. I think we have to address it sooner than later, is kind of where I sit with that. So I guess with that, we can ask for a consensus as far as what direction we want to take.
Mr. Mayor, I think I have a question for Dave that I think might be quite good for the group. Of if the council were to choose to go forward with the notice for the next meeting and putting together an order, at that point in time, like at the next meeting, you could still, these three other options, or these two other options are still available. Like, even though we've sent the notice and put together the order, that you choose to not proceed.
But then that is, the other thing is that if the property owner responds and talks with staff and comes up with a plan to, you know, address the situation, we can inform the council as such. At this point, what we're asking, in our council action requested, is to provide, it's a more formal notice at this point. And it's a document that is a findings of fact, conclusion, and abatement order. And we're saying that, you know, we're formally sending it to you, and the next step is for the city council to consider. So we're building in an extra step here. And what we are trying to do is to notify the owner and have them contact staff and figure out a way to come into compliance without going down all of this enforcement.
How long do they have to respond to appeal or not? Like a set thing by statute or?
So if at the next meeting, the council approves the abatement order, they would have 20 days in which to appeal it. If they would appeal it, it would go to a hearing officer. That has happened in the past with other properties. Under the city code, after the hearing officer issues their determination, again, there's another appeal process in the city code back to the city council again, within 20 days. And then after that, determination by the city again. Again, that, you know, as far as any type of negotiated settlement of the issue, the individual would still have the ability to appeal it to district court. So we are building in opportunities to be heard throughout this. And again, you know, if the property owner would avail himself of some conversation, putting together a plan, I think staff and the council would be amenable to, you know, taking a pause at whatever step that we're at, because all we're looking to do is to achieve compliance. So at this point in time, we're saying the current methods that we've utilized have not been effective. Do we want to start the next step?
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a follow-up question?
Absolutely.
So if we move forward with potential the abatement, is there a way, and I hear what you're saying, the certified letter, you know, anybody who answers that door, is there a way to have that letter served by the sheriff's department? That way we have that extra layer of protection in there, or how is that letter served to the landlord at this point? The next set of letters.
We would have a third party courier
Okay.
who would report back on writing on who actually signed for it.
Okay.
And that piece of paper and that signature would be what we would utilize as who received actual notice.
Okay, so staff will love certified letter, which I use all the time, I understand those, but, okay, thank you.
I have a question, Mayor. Could we use law enforcement to actually deliver the letter? I mean, we have a team on staff of law enforcement. Would that have any more effect, or can we actually have somebody that, you know, we're not messing around here, you know, Mr. So-and-so. Rather than just a courier, you know, in a little white, you know, sedan pull up there, you've got somebody with some authority that says, hey, you know, we're not trying to bust anybody, you know, chops here, but this is real, this is real now. I mean, like, kind of to Rob's effect,
Wouldn't you have to be when you serve somebody, you have to be a third party though, and that would be You be the same party.
Bulky lieutenant causes law enforcement do paper service up. In that sense, I guess, would be like a court subpoena. We typically do that in our own jurisdiction. I don't recall any time we served any type of notices to people outside of our city. I don't know that there would be any legal, anything legal from barring us to do that, but at the same time, it's definitely not normal practice. And at the same time, nothing,
That's not
you know,
present.
we couldn't force them to even identify themselves to us anyway, so, there could be some potential issues. Again, it's kind of uncharted waters that we've never practiced that way, so.
Under the guise of code enforcement, could they go there rather than just a law enforcement officer? It's a code enforcement situation.
But we're talking Ramsey.
Yeah.
To be
Yeah.
honest. You mean Ramsey code enforcement or?
No, our officer that we use for code enforcement could actually be the deliverer of the message, so to speak.
Again, I'd certainly be open to a discussion about it, if they're gonna know, if it's gonna benefit the city.
I would want to
Products again.
I think we stick with the method that we've used.
I wasn't suggesting, I was just asking if that was how we move forward, because I was listening when they were. So that was my question, is it the courier, is the law enforcement, and I said it would be the courier, and I would be comfortable with that.
And I'm fairly certain, the sheriff's office or Ramsey City, probably wouldn't entertain the idea of doing that on their behalf. So, again, I think it would have to be us doing that paper service in Ramsey, but again, I would want, we go back and things like that, but also go out of our jurisdiction to do that kind of service.
And I would say that there's no additional legal effect other than just having a courier do it.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with this. Typical way. I think that's a good idea, personally, just moving forward, that's basically what you're asking, for a formal, more formal, it might not be a face-to-face, with somebody from the city, but it's another layer of protection, I guess, saying we're trying here, work with us. So,
I think staff's approach has been that they're happy to work with the property owner, if the property owner would like to get in contact with staff.
all right, and do we need a motion?
The motion is on page 66. Could be motion and second to direct staff to provide notice to the property owner at 462 University Avenue of a nuisance findings of fact conclusion and abatement order to be heard and considered by the city council at their November 6th, 2023 meeting.
Do we have a motion? I'll make a motion. By Councilmember Bauer, do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Councilmember Trexler, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Now we move on to item B, Highway 47 forward. Original.
Mayor and council,
Is this out here too? Is there one on the table?
No,
Just the
agenda.
I was gonna say. I have confusion.
yeah, mayor and council, let's start with the confusion with that. We've got Highway 47 on tonight's topics for discussion and Highway 47 for tomorrow. So they got a little mixed up. So with that, before you tonight is a conversation in regards to proposals for regional and SIP funding to the state of Minnesota. Last year, we worked with WSB on an application for the Borders of Commerce funding. We were not successful with those funds as they really are driven towards corridors of commerce, meaning business and economic development. Even though our corridor has that, we are not the Highway 60. 169 is the Highway 10s that did receive those types of funds. So, we tried. I believe we have to try for every grant we have the possibility of reaching for to some degree. We had a possibility, but we did not get the Borders of Commerce. What we did get out of that grant process, though, was a lot of the data that the state requires and looks for in regards to cost estimates and some of the risks as they look for. So tonight, what's in front of you is a proposal from WSB. This would get us for the regional and the HSIP funding. HSIP funding would be only allowed for the intersections that would have a roundabout. It does not qualify for intersections that have a stoplight. So we would be able to look for these funds for the Ambassador intersection and the southern intersection at 207th. And then the regional solicitation funds, we would apply for the full corridor. If we were to receive a full grant, we would then not need the HSIP funds because the regional solicitation could pay for the project. So we're kind of going back to back with these, hoping for any and all that we may be able to receive. So tonight's goal is to move forward with the ability to apply for funding. Tomorrow, we are going to discuss really the next steps of the full project. I will not send this back to WSB until after our conversation tomorrow night. We have some pretty big pieces tomorrow night to kind of walk through. But tonight would be for council to review and approve the proposal to apply for those fundings with WSB. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Quick question before I turn it over to everybody else, is, Ambassador County, and I know they plan to do that anyway, is that still, you gotta kind of figure all that stuff out still first at the city level?
For
Or like the ambassador roundabout, so to speak, to fund it?
correct, so this, what we would apply for with these grant applications, like the original solicitation, would be for all 4 intersections of the corridor. The HSIP is one where we can only apply for the 2 intersections, and it doesn't cover any of the intersections in the middle or the greater corridor. So this may be an instance on this highway project where we're piecing together 2, 4, 6 different grants, trying to make all of the funding work. But so these will go in as 2 separate grant applications, but in the end, we're trying to.
And then we call it so, I suppose, the southernmost roundabout, is that considered county too, because it's 24 right there?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, so Mayor and Council, if it lands on 227th, it would be a cross intersection with the county. If they bump it up to 229, then it would be a cross section with the city.
All right, with that, I'll turn it over to council. Rob, it's ready.
I see a lot of different numbers that I don't understand. I'll start back on page 2 with WSB charges the city $2,429 and delivered absolutely nothing. And leaves 4821 for existing not delivered things, task 2 and 3, if I understand that right. So 4 and 5 are going to be $17,587. It just, the math doesn't add up for me of where the other $4,821 is. Are we gonna get tasks 2 and 3 done? And 4 and 5 for a total of 17,000 plus 48. So 20 something $1,000, $25,000. 43,000.
So Mayor and Council, so tasks 1, 2, and 3 that we approved the original $7,250 for was our contract last fall. We had applied to the porters and counters that only used the 2,400. So leaving the balance, so to work on and tasks 2 and 3 move forward more into tomorrow's conversation. So no, we're really moving on to tasks 4 and 5. They're recognizing that we had tasks that we didn't utilize. We weren't ready for those federal funding pieces. That again, I'll explain further tomorrow. But what we're really looking at is task 4 and 5, utilizing that $17,000 to get in those grant applications. These are more extensive grant applications. They will work with Hawkins and Anderson in regards to the utility pieces, if there's any questions there. But the 17,000 is for the 2 applications for the regional and the HSIP. If there's a balance left over, and these are estimates, so those are up to amounts, just like the first round was an up to. If they don't use the full 17,000, we will still retain this amount.
Is there any buy-in from WSB to say, hey, if we don't get you any grants, we give you a discounted price? To me, that's only good business, is here, I'm gonna charge you $17,000, I'm gonna give you absolutely nothing. That we didn't get it. Well, you didn't do a good enough job to get it, or, you know what I'm saying? That's where I'm at. I wanna always have the city put in clauses that there has to be production for pay. That's what I want to start seeing. Instead of just spending money on no results.
So Mayor and Council, that's the risk of grant applications. We could pay $1 for somebody to write a grant, we could pay 100,000 for somebody to write a grant. There is no guarantee. We are paying their staff time because we don't have somebody on our staff that can write engineer level road grants. So we would either be paying it on a salary like some cities do, or we're gonna pay it a consultant like we do many of our other services. And whether it's a win or a lose, we're paying for that time. There isn't a discount if the state turns it down, that's outside of WSB's control.
I like your angle, but I don't think they would go for it.
That's all I had.
Sarah?
And I'm not shocked, I'm not happy about having to spend more money, but I also understand that if we don't go after a grant, we can't get it. And then if we don't get any grants, then we've got a lot of money to try to put on our taxpayers to pay for that corridor, because we don't have a choice. It has to be fixed. Something has to be done. And things to have to pay that kind of money, but if we had to have someone on for staff, we're looking at a lot more money than that. And we're still not guaranteed we're getting those grants. And that's just like Kate was saying, that's.
Well, if you don't apply, you're guaranteed that.
What?
I said, if you don't apply.
That's the other thing too, is that's what I said, is if we don't apply for these grants, then it all does fall on our residents. There's not because we have to somehow fix that corridor. We don't have the option to leave it as is. That's not one of our options. So we either do it the way that we fought long and hard for our residents, asking us to fight that fight for them. Because this is what they wanted. They wanted roundabouts and stoplights. We dug our feet in. We said, this is what we want. We fought long and hard. We had lots of meetings. Lots of meetings. Some of us had more meetings than others. Just because of our committees that we're on. I don't like spending that money, but that's a small price to pay if we get those grants too.
Crystal?
So oddly enough, I think I was in here a few months ago asking for a roundabout or stoplight or something for Ambassador and 47, because I live right off that and I see so many accidents there. And also, and I believe the other section, I'm directionally challenged, so when you talk about corridors, south and north end, I'm sitting there like. So, but I think you're talking about right there where the school is on one side and, or is it a little bit further down? Where will we just put those stoplights in?
Those stoplights at Patterson there,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah, so that would be over.
27.
So Mayor and Council, so
That's good.
I apologize, because we haven't had an opportunity to meet on this yet, and I'll bring some images. But we did a corridor study that went from Cree Street, which is essentially directly across from the police department, all the way up to Ambassador and 47. So, what we've looked at is that whole corridor and addressing 4 major intersections. So our 233rd is our worst when it comes to traffic and accidents. Then I believe it went to Ambassador and then Pedersen and then 229. Well, 227th over the last 2 years has actually increased greater than 229, so they shifted that south. So what we've ended up doing is trying to look at the funding. So the whole thing has become a project. So when we're applying, it's how do we piece together the 4 major intersections and then the corridors in between as it comes to lighting, landscaping. But I'll bring some images tomorrow to help unpackage more of that.
Yeah, so I mean, with all of that, I agree, I'm not fond of spending money But I'm also not fond of telling a loved one that we did nothing, and that this whole corridor continues to be a crisis for our community, for our kids. You know, you can't just walk along some of these spots, it's dangerous. So, and it's up to 17, it doesn't necessarily say they're gonna spend it all, like this one was up to 7, and they only spent 24. So, you know, that's the way I'm looking at it, and I know I'll get more information tomorrow. I also want to be a good steward of our community's money, but I think this one is imperative that we see through.
Kevin?
I agree, you know, we picked this partner early on to dance with, and they got us to the point where we reduced 4 roundabouts down to 2 lights and 2 roundies, so. We picked a partner, we got to dance with them, so as far as the money, it's $4 grand we haven't spent yet, and they want 17 to do each 2 of the tasks. We don't have the skill set within the office, we don't have the staff to do it, like Kate said, I mean, this is very time consuming, this is what these people do. Kate, can you tell us how much we spent with WSB already for what we have accomplished so far? Off the top of your head?
So Mayor and Council, MinDOT actually covered the first 100,000 with all of the work that we did
Nice.
up into the Corridors of Commerce application. So that 2,000 or 2,900 that they identified has been our total out of pocket since the state contract ended and it became the property or project of the city is probably better.
And can you refresh us where the 17,000, we appropriate this money this evening to move forward? I don't remember what funds, or if we used some ARPA stuff, or what, did we allocate some funds early on to draw from? Rather than general fund?
Yep, so Mayor and Council Darcy and I spoke this afternoon about funds for the 17,000. And we actually could use street funds for that. You know, there's a fine line. If we could keep going further into the street funds, we are going to impact our street fund account. But at this point, that may be a good location for this.
All right, well, like Crystal said, this has been a 5-year process, and then 2 individuals were severely life changed and altered, and over families, and I know for a fact that over the last 5 years, people think that we're not doing anything, and I try to bring it up, and as the other council members do, that we are doing something. It's just that government moves slow, as Mayor Copeland would always say. So, we, you know, our heart's in the right place, we have to put our money where our mouth is now, and, without them, you know, we're gonna be taken advantage of, and we won't get what we want for the long term, which is, you know, 75 years down the road as far as the commercial corridor, and first and foremost, safety and well-being of the citizens, and how it flows and how things flow through our city. So I don't see we have a choice at this point. The WSB means well, they've gotten us to a good spot so far with some reductions in some of the requirements that we would have faced. So I'm on board.
Thank you, Kevin. What are the potential or up to grant dollars that we could receive if we were able to do it? Does that depend on the whole project cost or depend on?
So Mayor and Council, if I remember correctly, with the HSIP was $2 million in intersection. And the Corridors of Commerce was $7 million. We still have 2.5 million sitting in the pavement reconstruction fund. Because of our delays, we've lost all of the excess funding at Pedersen that was kind of verbally committed from the girls' accident. The state has stripped that away because we did not move forward. So right now we have the 2.5 million as a guarantee with the pavement reconstruction towards this project. And then that's why I'm saying we would probably be piecing 2 to up to 6 different funds together.
I'd like to thank the state for that first 100,000.
Yes.
Still disappointed with some of those other stuff we have to go through to get some of our money back and grants. I mean, it's a small number to pay for a potentially large cost that we might incur. I think we always have to do it. To be honest with you, I don't think I'm a fan of any of the plans I've seen in that, or any of our options, whether it's 4 roundabouts or 2 stoplights. I do think something has to be done, but I don't have the answer either, so I'm not going to pretend to. We will trust our experts at MnDOT and go with that. We got our stoplights, which we do have to maintain ourselves, but I understand, too, once we get in there. And, I think this would help offset some of the costs if we do get it. If we don't get it, it's somewhat of a gamble, but I don't think it's, I think it's a huge gamble. So I would like to see us move forward with it, I guess. That's where I sit with it. With that,
Who's making,
yes,
interject one word, comment about WSB. I would really like for them to include our legislature, our support from this region. And I know Mr. Lowe and, Dell. I would really like to get them back on board with maybe even sending them a copy of the grant applications, WSB. Can't imagine a 20-page report mailing into Mr. Bell would cost the city much more than the $17,500. But I would really like to see our representatives behind us and helping us pay for this through the state.
What does that look? I like the idea, throw it out there and say, hey, but is that,
So Mayor, Council, we'll have a,
well, that's not shady.
so I have had extensive conversations with the Anoka County. They are discussing this at their transportation committee, which Commissioner will, at what they can participate with the city or caution with the city with what we're moving forward to discuss tomorrow night. We also need to look at how to pay for final design, and that would be a direct request to the state capital funds. So that's, next spring, we'll be asking for the $1 million for the final design if we move forward with our conversation tomorrow. So there's a lot of moving pieces yet to come. This is the cheapest and easiest one we have.
All right, and this was a kind of last minute deal. Do we need a motion to move forward, or do we have staff direction?
Motion to approve the proposed scope of work for the regional and HSIP funding applications.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Radvik, do we have a second?
Second there.
Second by Councilmember Robinson, all in favor? Motion carried. And now we will move on to meeting open to the public. And report. Fire department.
Mayor and council, for your review this evening is the fire department's monthly report for the month of September. As noted on our response times, we did see a slight uptick in response times. It's not certain at this point that there's any correlation with our new facility and a very small trickle in our response times. However, we have noticed just with the increased distance from the previous existing fire station, we've seen the increase in the amount of times that we get double tone. So after 5 minutes, if there's no response, dispatch automatically repages the incident out. We do have a pretty quick acknowledgement of the run after that, but just that slight difference from our location, we're starting to see that a little bit. Probably has a little bit to do with the procedure of getting through the gate as well. That tends to slow things down a little bit. But overall, we're not seeing a big dissipation in our response times. We did see an increase in the month of September with 55 the previous year, 62 for 2023. Staffing is stable at 5.2 firefighters per response, and we had a pretty significant increase in our EMS responses for the month of September, where fire responses remained relatively low. On the month, we did report 4 ambulance response times over 20 minutes. Of note, I did have a meeting with the local ambulance supervisor for our area. One of the things that he did share with me is they hired 15 new employees last quarter, but they also lost 22 employees during that same time frame. So as desperately as they're trying to up their staffing, they're not any different than any other industry at this point, and are having some difficulty retaining employees. So still has not stabilized on their end. And for the month, we did 5 initial inspections with 1 reinspection for a total of 6 site visits on the month. It is nice to see our re-inspections go down year over year as well. So we're
continue to see good compliance with their fire safety inspection. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions with third principal?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin?
How many trips have you made in and out of the gate so far, the new abode?
Several.
And have you found some tweaking and tuning to be done, or are they kind of settled in?
I think everything's pretty well settled in. It's again, just the logistics of getting through that gate, getting back out the gate, that does create some rather minor delays, but they do add up over time.
And you were gonna have some overnighters there from time to time, is that still in play, or are you? full-
Potentially, we wanted to get some data sets on how this is gonna work out with response times. We wanna make sure that, if we're making adjustments to our operation, that we have the data to support that. So we're watching those response times pretty closely right now. We are seeing kind of that slow trickle up. Again, we're still within our goal of 10 minutes or less, so that's encouraging. But we will continue to monitor if this becomes more problematic, or if we see those delays increase over time. We will make the adjustment as needed.
Okay, have you used the heat in the facility at this point, with a couple, chillier nights and whatnot, how's that, everything getting the bugs out of that as well?
Yep, everything seems to be working as good as it can at that facility. Paul and I talk on a pretty routine basis, and if there are issues that are creeping up, we're addressing them as quickly as we can.
Okay, and can you give us any background on Bethel and Nelda at this point?
Bethel, we're continuing to work through, our proposal. We hope to have some traction with that. We're gonna meet again in November. Nelda is working towards a 1-year contract extension. Again, we hope to have that in place here very soon.
Okay, so we'll be able to see that whether it affects our budget or not, or any changes there. As far as Bethel, have they come to the realization that they need to have another partner, and are they starting to see the amicable value here, or what's the deal?
I think their acute awareness that they need a partner has never wavered. I think they're there. I think the cog in all of this has always been, and probably will continue to be, the cost. And, you know, as we've talked, I don't know that we could provide a much cheaper proposal
Well, heck
than we
no.
already have. Unfortunately, that's a decision that their body is going to have to make at some point. What that looks like in the end, I don't know.
Well, again, thank you for the work you put into it. Again, you have unbillable hours that nobody accounts for other than your own salary, and Kate knows the time that you put in and whatnot. You know, people don't see behind the scenes what it takes when they throw something at you. You lose the fact that you probably lose some sleep over it, but let alone the frustration alone, and the time spent to get the takes away by the task. I mean, we're not dicking around here. This is what we have. This is what, if you want to use it, use it. But I mean, there's things to do. I hope they can appreciate when it's all said and done, and the value that they'll get from their enhanced employee, the people that are on their staff, and then, you know, we'll bring into our staff, et cetera. So, but thank you for the stuff you've done so far. Again, it's behind the scenes that nobody accounts for or asks about.
I can say, and Mayor Wheelower did attend our last meeting. We did have some pretty frank discussions at our last meeting. So I think
It's time for that.
I think the point is getting well known at this point.
Good. Thank you very much.
Good report. Kevin always does the Bethel and now then, so it's good to see the information flow on those. Other than that, I don't have anything.
There?
I don't have anything either. Great report, and we appreciate your guys' flexibility over there. I know it's a change, but you guys are doing well. You're on top of monitoring everything, so I have complete confidence that if we need to change something.
Good report. Again, the advocate, I appreciate all the work you put in on that already. And, hopefully we make some progress here moving forward. I just noticed too that there is no more COVID on the variants. You plan on bringing that back? Now they're bringing it back in.
So we were actually mandated through the state of Minnesota and the National Fire Incident Reporting System to account for any confirmed and potential exposures. And there's a couple components to this, right? There's obviously a federal interest in trying to find some data. And I would believe that our data was probably more accurate than maybe some of the other streams of data that were coming out at the time. But the other piece, which was more important for us from an employee worker welfare aspect, is it became presumptive legislation. So if somebody was to contract COVID, and if they unfortunately suffered from long COVID or some other significant concerns from COVID, we wanted to make sure that we're capturing those events. So we could make sure that if it did fall under that presumptive legislation, we could go back and be reflective of who attended that, who did that patient contact, things of that nature. Once that requirement was relinquished, we removed it off of our reporting aspect. I hope we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I'm with me. But I don't have anything, again, just thank everybody, at the department, working through the struggles with the meantime, all the departments being built as well. With that, we'll move on to police.
Mayor, also in your packets, you'll see the third quarter report for the police department. And with other reviews, the third quarter achieved for community events, which is a little different. We hosted and participated in a number of events throughout the summer, including Phone with the Cop, National Night Out, Stay Safe at Home program, and our first ever Coffee with the Cop began in September, which we're hoping to make a monthly event. And it's always great to get out there and have positive interactions with the public. These events are a great way to do that. Unfortunately, we do have a very good staff of officers and office staff in place that contribute to this effort, because we're without them. So I always want to publicly thank them all, because these events would not exist without them. So calls for service did increase from the second quarter in both reportable, which again are part 1 and 2 offenses, and non-reportable, which are part 3, 4, and 5 offenses. And again, the reportable or part 1 and 2 offenses are basically can kind of sum it up to criminal activity, I guess, such as robbery, burglary, assault, drug offenses, and other types of incidents that get reported to the FBI for their annual uniform crime report. The part 3, 4, and 5 offenses are more of our run-of-the-mill call types that we respond to a lot more often than part 1 and 2. Some of the part 1 and 2 offenses that did increase this quarter are, we had a lot more trespassing complaints, both residential and commercial, and disorderly related offenses. Some non-reportable offenses which increased were medical, civil issues, self-initiated open garage doors and open vehicle doors, and suspicious activity type events. And again, the open garage doors and the open vehicle doors are basically done by the overnight officers. When they observe open garage doors or open vehicle doors, they alert the homeowner. And it's a great, effort we began a few years ago. It's still getting a good response. And it's obviously a great way to deter theft, but it's also a great way to bring awareness to that homeowner. And we do have some repeat people that leave them doors open. We'll continue to bug them, but we don't see them open anymore. And if they don't want to answer the door first, they don't have to, but it's just a good way to get out there and get the officers interacting with people. Cases referred to investigations did decrease slightly over the quarter, or during the quarter versus the second quarter. Officers also conducted predatory offender compliance checks during the quarter to assure that our registered predatory offenders within this community are doing what they're supposed to be doing and remaining in compliance with statutory and DC requirements. Traffic enforcement continues to be a priority. Officers are doing a good job of getting out there and being visible. They're staying proactive with traffic enforcement, and officers stopped 603 vehicles during the quarter, and 194 citations were issued. And traffic accidents did decrease slightly during the quarter, which was nice to see. Also in the report is a page dedicated to Minnesota TZD or Towards Zero Deaths. St. Francis dedicated a lot of time working various TZD initiatives over the summer, including speed waves, DWI waves, move over law waves, and seatbelt waves. All that extra enforcement was done in St. Francis and by our own officers. And just a reminder that all those hours that our officers work are typically overtime hours, but they are reimbursed through the Minnesota TZD grant. Statewide fatalities are down in comparison to this time last year. The numbers in the report are actually only through September 10th. So the statewide fatality count is now close to 309 deaths compared to 355 this time last year. So we are down. but obviously still have some work to do. Some of the main contributing factors continue to be speed, alcohol, unbelted occupants, and distracted driving. And we're now up over 18,000 DWIs in the state to date. So obviously continues to be an issue as well. Pages 5 through 7 show the upcoming events for the remainder of the year, along with some memories. The events officers and staff participated in during the third quarter. And the last page displays, I guess we'll take it as an accomplishment for the city, where St. Francis was named the 19th safest city in Minnesota, and out of 300 cities in the state, that's a pretty good accomplishment. And this comes from a company called SafeWise, who puts this report out every year for every state in the country. And basically, it comes from compiled uniform crime report data, which is the data that we report to them annually. So came from that data. So I'm really proud of the work our officers and staff are doing, both on the enforcement side and the educational and outreach side. We just hope to stay healthy the remainder of the year and then get into next year and see what that has in store for us. So with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Good report, chief. Appreciate it very much. I was talking to one of your cohorts in another department in a neighboring city. It's unbelievable the amount of incentives that are out there with your hiring situation. And we're talking tens of thousands of dollars on top of sabbaticals, 21 days vacation, paying for family vacations of $1,500 to each individual. I mean, the amount of incentives here is pretty staggering. So I feel for you when you're out there looking for help, and some young men or women want to come here and in our department when the other departments are offering crazy stuff, but
It's slim pickings.
it's a moving pieces out there for sure. Thank you again for your community outreach and the service. It's always great to see that. I mean, the cops and coffee thing, that's pretty nice. And we have a diner to actually do it in town, which is pretty cool. So I just keep up the good work and appreciate that 19 out of 300. That's very commendable too. I'm glad to see that. So you should make sure the guys and gals know that we appreciate that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
I don't have any questions. I just, again, thank you for all you guys do. It's a great community and great helping with that.
Great report. Just thank all the officers for everything they do. I see them out there daily, when I'm speeding through town. They, haven't been stopped yet. But, no, they're doing a great job. I see them in every neighborhood that I go into. Just let them know, and all the support that they're giving the city with all the outreach things. Thank them. Yeah.
Yep, great reports, and I'll just echo what the other people are saying. I think our community is very fortunate that we have put our police in our own hands. I think that's a huge asset to our community. And the fact that we have really good officers. And that does come from you being a good chief as well. And there's lots of communities that would really like to have their own police department, and it's just not, it's not something that most communities can afford. So we're really doing our citizens, residents, a great service by having people who are really invested in that community. I think that speaks volumes. And they are out there, they're on patrol, they see kids out, they stop and talk to them, they're enthusiastic when you see them on their boat. And we're very fortunate to have the police department, and your leadership is great.
Thanks, Todd. Great report as usual. Again, just like everybody else, and our appreciation to everybody. I do think it is really great what you guys can do with the community stuff. Fortunately, we do have a full-time police service here, and we've had that ever since I've been here. And you have the ability to do that. I would like to share some of that with Dave from our fire department too, because he's expressed interest in wanting to do these things. However, that would come at a cost as well, because we don't have full-time positions. So I admire your ability to do it, but just to put it out there that it's on us for hamstringing it as well too. It's something that we have to prioritize, and I know you understand this, we've had many conversations. But just, the fire department doesn't get enough, sometimes appreciation. I think it is more important too, for the police to be interacting with the community, given that usually that, when somebody needs an officer, they're on the wrong side. So kind of bridging that gap, whereas, fire department doesn't necessarily have that negative aspect to it. So just like to throw that out there. So with that, we'll move on to Councilman Kevin, go ahead.
I really have nothing to add. It was kind of a quiet September, and I'm looking forward to the March work session and getting things moving here, so that's about it.
Chris?
Let me see, I met with the department head. I had a meeting with Kate that I had to cancel, migraine touching out. And then we have a work session tomorrow. The meeting with the department heads was great to be able to meet them and kind of hear a lot about what they do. I thought that was fascinating, and I can't wait to have more of it.
Yeah.
Just a couple weeks or something. Looking forward to, hopefully, having some of those stories done.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. My report would be, I will be attending the meeting by Zoom tomorrow. Kevin's gonna run that meeting, locally here, I think. I attended the Bethel Fire Department meeting. It was interesting to say the least. Didn't quite make as much progress as I would have hoped. We'll continue to work on that. But other than that, I don't think I have a lot to report. So with that,
Okay, that's good. Can we give Paul a minute? Can you, tell us what's coming up in your neck of the woods there in the next week or two?
As far as
The public works,
the open house.
yeah, can you give yourself a plug there?
I sure can. It's gonna be, it'll be a week from tomorrow, the 24th, 5 to 7. Doesn't matter what the weather's gonna do, we've got it set up, we can be inside as well, so we're gonna have it no matter what, it won't be canceled. We hope to see a lot of families, a lot of kids. We're set up for a lot of kids. We've been online with the name of snowplow. We're offering, some of the drawings we're gonna do are for $100 credit for our residents in the water club district. We're also doing a snowball ride for the children, two lucky kids to school, from their house to the school. Luckily, I still know a lot of the school staff, so we'll be able to set that up. Probably it'll be something special, where it will be, maybe after school starts or something, so we can make it a little bit more special than just getting in line with a bunch of parents, so. Should be a lot of fun.
I think that'd be.
Well, I don't know, that's about the driver of the snowplow, that could be a little bit of an issue. Yeah, I think it's setting up, we're gonna put signs out here, or signs should be out. You'll see where we normally put recycle signs, is where I wanted the team to put all those signs up. Yeah, spread the word. We'd love to have a full health, hot dogs, chips. I'll be cooking that evening. Yeah, hope to see the public there.
Are you getting any buzz, any feedback of what, yeah, you've had it out for a little while?
Yeah, I mean, positive, it's all positive. Just we'll see when the day comes.
Sure.
We'll see. And it's the first of many, hopefully. So I'd really like this to be an annual thing. I really would. So I hope our public shows up. We're here for them. So,
Good.
yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
thank you. Anybody have anything else? We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Bauer, we have a second.
I'll second, Mayor.
Second by Councilmember Robinson, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at 7:18.
Sit you.